Welcome. I'm Faye Waterman, the Conversation Curator, and today we are recording What's Your Superpowers with Jacalyn Price, who is a business owner, an author of 2 books and 3 more on the go. Welcome, Jacalyn, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, Faye. It's a pleasure being here with you.
It's my pleasure to have you here and to learn about you and your superpowers. Now, Jacalyn, what I want you to do is share a little bit about where you come from.
So, I was born in Spears Point area, Newcastle. I'm the eldest of 7 children. So, being the eldest, you sort of take on a lot of responsibilities, helping the family. And as you grow up, that still continues on, but it's less and less as the other ones get older. And then you leave home and start your own life and still keep in touch with everyone and make sure everything's going fine.
Where did you live? Did you live in the country? Did you live in the city? What was your life like growing up?
I lived in the city and just attended the local schools and high schools, did a bit of uni work, and then when I started work, I worked at the Royal Newcastle Hospital in pathology. So that was very interesting, blood transfusion and pathology, and used to do ward rounds and take blood samples off the patients and come back and test them in the labs. That went on for 25 years, so it was a really good job.
You said you did a little bit of uni. Now, a little bit of
Yes.
uni means that you actually educated and trained yourself to be a pathologist?
Yes, that was part of our training. I did tech initially and then did some uni work as well.
Right, okay. And what got you into that career path in the first place?
Well, I wanted to join the police force and be in forensics. But back then, the females had to be 24 and be 5'6". So I was too short and too young. At 18, you had to wait till you're 24 to join the police force.
It's a bit of a discrimination,
It was back then.
isn't it? No more now, though, is it?
Not now. They've dropped the height limits and don't worry about the age limits anymore.
I don't think age is nothing really, and height means nothing at all. It's how you carry out that job or that position, isn't it?
And even now, like going into forensics, you don't have to go through all the routine of the normal police force part of it. You just go straight into forensics. It's all separate again now.
It would be quite a fascinating side of the police force to be in the forensic side of it. What was it that really interested you as far as the forensic side of the police force went?
I think, when you're young, you're looking for something to achieve. And I thought forensics, it'd be so interesting working out what's happening, solving crimes, and just making a difference by sorting that crime out. And it really fascinated me because you're watching shows on TV like in forensics, and I thought, wow, that'd be interesting to learn.
But the shows on TV are a little bit different to reality,
Oh, yes.
aren't they?
It still gives you an idea of, that's something you could go into.
Yeah. Okay. I remember having a conversation about at some stage when I was talking to you about bees. I
Yes.
want you to talk about that because I find it absolutely fascinating. So share your experience working with bees.
So initially, I just bought honey off an apiarist, and I thought, he said, why don't you have your own bees? And I thought, well, never thought of that. So we started with about 5 hives and then progressed till we had over 100 hives at one stage. And because of the flowering, you have to sort of take it to different areas to make sure you're having flowers for the bees. Otherwise, there's no food. Otherwise, you have to sugar feed them in the hard times. So at least they're still getting some feed while they're looking for the flowers. And in that time, I went to Gatton College in Queensland and learned artificial insemination of the queen bee.
Artificial insemination of the queen bee. Isn't the queen bee too small to be artificially inseminated?
Now, under a microscope.
Under a microscope. It'd have to be a very powerful microscope.
And the poor old drone has to go, of course. Well, when he mates with the queen, he dies anyway. But you have to mate with the drone and get it off the drone and give it to the queen. You don't realise the things you can do.
Yeah, what's the purpose of the artificial insemination? Well, it's not really artificial, is it? It's real, but why not allow that as a natural process? Why is it that you do that?
I think they're trying to work out, get the good queens, because you can have cranky queens. If you have a cranky queen, you have a cranky hive. It doesn't matter what you try and do, they'll go for you.
What do you mean by a cranky queen bee?
If you have a cranky queen, the hive gets cranky. And when you're trying to work with the hive, they'll just keep stinging you. Because
Really?
you have to cool the bees down with cool smoke, and you
Right.
use like pine needles in a little smoker, and you puff the front of the hive with the cool smoke, and that calms them down so you can go in, take the honey out and put empty frames in for them to fill the honey up again. And
Right.
the queen bee is kept separate down lower than the worker bees up higher in the hive.
So a queen bee can be a little bit crazy. So if they're crazy, that makes the hive crazy.
The hive gets cranky too.
Really?
And you have a cranky queen, you find a new queen because you can't work with a cranky hive.
I'm sorry for laughing, but I find that quite fascinating because there's hives and there's honey breeders. Would you say they're honey breeders? What would you call someone who
Apiarist.
say it again?
Apiarist.
Apiarist. Yeah. Yeah, it's quite fascinating. So artificially inseminating the queen bee. How do you know if it's a good queen bee or not a good queen bee? What sort of things do you look for?
The nature of the queen, if she's laying her eggs really well, looking after her hive, and she's nice and quiet. If she's quiet, laying her eggs and they're all hatching really well, you know I have a good queen. If the hive starts to get cranky and tries to sting you each time you go to work the hive, you know you need a new queen.
Right. Now, does the queen bee ever go out and gather the honey or gather the
No,
pollen from the
no,
flowers?
she's only there to mate with the drone and lay the eggs.
Right.
The
Okay.
drones are only there to mate with the queen, and there's worker bees that go and collect the honey and pollen.
Right. And was there a scarcity a few years ago of bees because there wasn't enough food for them?
Yes, different. Like if you get a drought season, like the gum trees won't flower, you won't get the sunflowers flowering. You've got to pick the seasons, what's in flower, and take the hives and put them like in a big sunflower field. Then you get specific honey for that flowering. And that's what you see different names of honey because they're in a field of that flower and are specific because they'll
Right.
only travel a certain distance. And if you want a mixed honey, that's okay. If you want a special honey, put them in a like bottle brush honey or something similar, and different gum trees have different flavors of honey.
Right. Okay. They say you learn something new every day. Well, I've just
You do.
learned a few things just from that conversation. All right. So from there into pathology and analyzing bloods, and what sort of things do you find when you're analyzing bloods? What are you looking for a lot of the time?
Sometimes they're just routine tests to check for white cells or red cells, or if someone's had a bleed to check whether the hemoglobin levels are low, or someone's really ill. You can look under the microscope on the little slide and see if there's a problem with the white cells and if it's possibly a cancer. And if you're not sure and you look like abnormal white cells, then you show the pathologist and he then diagnoses what the problem is, whether it's a cancer or myeloma or just anemia. They can tell by looking at the white cells and the red cells.
Mm, quite a fascinating area, isn't it?
It is,
It can determine a lot about a person
yes.
and their health and their well-being.
So if they're coming unwell, you just do a routine blood test. And so, look, she's anemic or, you know, she might have abdo pains and it could be appendicitis, so the white cells will increase. Different illness, the white cells will increase, and I know there's a problem somewhere. Then they go looking further.
Right, right. Quite fascinating. And you said you were in that for 25 years?
25 years.
25 years of doing that. Then what changed for you to change the direction of your career path?
I had a fall.
You had a fall.
I damaged the sympathetic nervous system and it put me out of work for 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah.
Geez, it must have been a big fall to put you out of work for that long.
It wasn't initially a big fall. And initially I thought, oh, well, I've just fallen over, you get up. Then I was in a lot of pain and we couldn't work out why. Because when you're in pain, nothing shows up. And over the time, they'd put me on less hours. And then overnight, my left leg went numb and went bright pink and cold. And they sent me to hospital and I diagnosed with reflex sympathetic dystrophy. I damaged the sympathetic nervous system. And nerve pain is one of the worst pains. It took a long time to get the feeling back in that leg. And then was ongoing physio hydro for years because I couldn't do much, couldn't walk properly with the left leg going numb. So it was on pain clinics, hydrotherapy, you name it, for 12 years. Wheelchairs, crutches.
It's interesting, isn't it? I'm going to say something as simple as a fall can cause so much damage.
That's right.
How long before your legs started to go numb and you couldn't stand?
Well, it happened overnight. I still had constant pain for probably a month or so. And I went to bed one night and woke up. I couldn't use my left leg. It had gone numb. And I thought I'd had a stroke.
Right.
So they had to get the ambulance and take me to hospital. And the doctor out at Toronto Private Hospital diagnosed it because she recognised the symptoms with being numb, red and cold.
And the circulation wasn't getting through. Nothing was happening. Yeah, and that's why
it was like twice a day in a hydrotherapy pool, and it was so sensitive. Nobody could touch my leg. It hurt to touch.
Right.
And even to dry my leg, they'd get a hairdryer just to dry the leg. You couldn't stand a towel on it or anything on your leg. It was so sensitive to touch.
And 12 years down the track, you know, you can walk now. Do you ever have any symptoms from
If you have another injury, it will come back.
Right. So you must prevent those from happening.
Yeah, like when I was hit with the taxi going back 5 years ago, it came back in the left leg.
How did you get hit by a taxi?
I was in a pedestrian crossing and she didn't see me.
Seriously? Wow.
So I went airborne.
You went, literally went up in the air and down again.
Yes.
Oh, just makes my blood curdle.
Just luckily in the old judo days, I learned to break fall. When I come down, I did a break fall, which saved my body, but nearly lost the arm through it because I broke it in 6 places.
Broke your arm in 6 places?
6 places, and I have a complete elbow replacement and pins and plates through the shoulder and wrist, and took them 6 hours to put the arm back together.
Oh, wow.
So then it was 12 months of therapy at home. I couldn't use the arm. So I'd have help at home for 12 months to be able to start using the arm, continued therapy all the time.
12 years of one, 5 years for another, was it? Or 12 months for the other?
12 months basically to get used to the arm back and use it slowly.
Mm. And do you ever, you know, if it's cold weather or hot weather, do you get any symptoms of aching or anything like that? I would imagine your arm and your elbow and shoulder would be kind of on the of arthritis.
You're good weather predictors. You know when there's a weather change coming.
Yeah. What about your leg? Does that?
It's pretty good on the whole. Sometimes it'll ache a bit if it's going to be a cold change, and I'm not good with cold weather because it aggravates it.
Right. Okay. Let's move on because I want to see, I mean, I've already learned a couple of your superpowers. One is that you can artificially inseminate a queen bee, and you understand the breeding of bees and getting the honey. And then, you know, working as a radiologist and pathologist. Yes,
it's
that's
different.
Right. Yeah, pathologist. And, you know, testing bloods and looking for different things in the bloods. Fascinating. Then having your injuries and then going into something completely different. how did you transition into what you're doing now?
Well, I tried to go back to work in pathology, but I was still on a crutch still then. And because I've been out of work so long, they want young people, of course, pay them less. So I just give up on that. I started doing some counselling and working with different groups and just learning some more about business skills. And that sort of took me into learning more. And I got introduced to ACN through a meeting we had. And I thought, well, it's simple. It's not always easy, but everybody pays bills. So if I can help people save on their bills, that's an income as well.
Okay. Tell us what ACN is to start with.
That's All Communications Network.
Okay. And what is it actually?
So it's in 30 countries and been going for 30 years. So we just help the household save on the electricity, your gas, mobile phones, NBN, and different countries have a different range of services. We've just launched home and contents insurance in Australia and also Truvi Travel, our club. So you save on when you're travelling, like accommodation, cruises, hire cars, anything to do with travelling, you can save on the discounts on travelling as well.
Okay. How long have you been doing that, Jacalyn?
10 years part-time, being a carer for my parents. And then we lost mum just on 4 years ago. And dad's 92 and just gone into permanent care. So even though I'm down with him nearly every day for lunch, he's had to adjust to going into permanent care with his health. And that was a big challenge for him, but he's settling quite well, which is a lot easier for the family.
Yeah, it makes a difference when they can settle in, isn't it? It's when they're not happy there, or they don't want to really be there. And I understand. No, I don't understand it, but I can say I can relate to them. Not no longer living in their own home because they can't really look after themselves, and that is the next step. Okay, but what else do you do besides ACN and help people with their home bills and travel and things like that? What else?
I'm also an author.
Right, tell us about that, and how did you get to become an author?
I was doing a course with Matt Morris. He's an international speaker. And I just had an email saying, would you like to co-author with me? Of course, you say yes, as Richard Branson says, say yes, and then figure it out. So I co-authored with Matt Morris. I'm on the front cover with him. And there's 29 other leading experts in the book. And I have chapter 1 in the book. And just sharing, it's called Breakthrough Leadership with Jacalyn Price. And it just opened up new opportunities being an author and networking and sharing your skills. And then I joined an authors group 18 months down the track. And now I co-author with Sally Green and Linda Sunshine West. And I have done Action Takers Who Get Shit Done, No Excuses, Never Give Up, and the next one is Unstoppable. And there's a couple more in the pipeline. And I've been asked to co-author with Sunil Tasani and Brian Tracy in the States. I'm doing a chapter with him, so I'm working on that one as well. Just getting yourself out there with legends in their field and being a co-author with people where it'll take you, it's amazing.
So what's it like for you, meeting these people and co-authoring with them? What sort of things do you learn from these people? What inspires you with these people when you have conversations with them?
They're all experts in their field and you're always learning the different skills for leadership or just in life. Looking after yourself, number one, basically, is one of my chapters. Take care of yourself first. You can't look after others unless you do.
It's so true, isn't it? And it's a bit like the aeroplane when they say you put the mask on first and then put it on your children and things. And it is, but as a mother, you tend to look after your children and everybody else first. You tend to put them first before yourself. And you leave yourself last, and sometimes there's no time in the day to do anything for you. So you have to retrain yourself to actually look after you, so then you can do the things that you want to do, and then look after others.
That's right. When Dad got ill, Like there was months and months of him being unwell in hospital, and all my time was with Dad and no time for myself. And then it caught up with me, and I got unwell myself. But you just really have to take that time out to look after yourself first, or it will catch up with you.
Okay. Tell me some of the things that you've written about in your co-authored books.
The first one was breakthrough leadership, just sharing your skills, what you learn in business, and telling your story basically. Like I shared my story from when I was in pathology, trying to go into the police force, going into other fields, and just learning those skills and sharing how you can achieve. And with the Action Takers Get Shit Done book, like I shared the story of what happened with me when I had the fall, the challenges I had, and all the pain clinics, and saying, look, if I can get through this using the power of the subconscious mind, you can get through anything basically.
Mm. And it is the power of the mind, the conscious mind, which takes the thoughts into the subconscious mind and sometimes buries them very deep until something
Yes,
happens and triggers whatever it is to bring it to the fore. And it could be a trauma, it could be something happy, it could be anything really. What are you learning from writing these books? What is it that really gives you the motivation, I'd say it's courage to share your story, because it takes courage and bravery to actually put yourself out there in the
yes.
forefront. And what is it that drives you? What's your driver?
I think just being able to share what I've been through and saying, look, everyone has a challenge. Sometimes the smallest challenge is breaking point for some people because so much has been happening. If you can say to yourself, I can do this and I am, like I am enough, start your day with I am. It's the two most powerful words.
They are the most powerful words, aren't they? And I always say there's no such thing as can't. It's I don't want to, or I'm too scared to have a go.
Yes.
Yeah. And try.
Dad used to say to us when we were young, can't means won't.
Yeah. And I used to say that to my children. There's no such thing as can't. It's I don't want to.
Yes.
So switch that around. But we also have this word try. We don't try. We either do it or we don't do it. Isn't
That's
that
right.
right?
Yes.
So it's really interesting, the language that we actually use every day. And we don't really stop to think about the language we use every day, do we, Jacalyn?
Not really. And you have to give yourself positive thoughts. If you think of something negative, like when my leg was aching, I'd say, oh, my leg, you got to take away from the leg aching to, I can do this. I know I am doing it, because you just concentrate on the sore leg and you won't get anywhere because you're thinking about the leg being sore all the time. And you'll just start limping, and that makes everything else worse.
Yeah, yeah, that's so true. It's interesting to really think about the power of the language that we use daily. And I always say, what you think about, you bring about. So
That's
you can
right.
have good thoughts or not so good thoughts. And if you keep thinking either of those, that's what you bring about. So it's good to, when you wake up in the morning, say thank you for the day
Yes.
and be grateful. I mean, gratitude is one of the most important things that we can have, is be grateful for who we are, what we do, where we live, the abundance that we have in our life.
Like wake up every morning. I'm so happy and grateful I woke up. Not
Yeah.
everybody wakes up every morning. Some
Mm,
people pass in their sleep. Some people have an accident. Just waking up and having a
yeah.
roof over your head. Like a lot of people don't have anywhere to live.
Yeah.
Just the basics of gratitude.
Yeah. And it is the basics of gratitude. I mean, abundance doesn't just mean being abundant with money. It means the abundance of your surroundings, the abundance of your friends, and all those sorts of things. And looking at the flowers, having an appreciation. When I look at my flowers and the colours, makes my heart sing. It's the simple things in life that make me happy.
That's right. And a lot of people take things for granted, but if you don't appreciate the simple things in life, waking up, having food, somewhere to live, a lot of people pass away because they've got nowhere to live. They're living in the cold, no food.
Mm. And, a lot of people can live life and say, I'd like to do that, or I want to do that, but they never get to do it. And they get to the end of their life and they can think, if only
That's right.
I did. So we don't want to live with regrets. We want to have a go at things like you are having a go.
Yes.
And you're pretty amazing because you you not only write books, but you go to awards and you win awards and you win this and you win that, and you're always doing this. You're proactive all the time, doing something and making something happen that's good in your life. You're an inspiration to a lot of people, Jacalyn.
Thank you. Just putting
So,
yourself out there and saying yes to an opportunity that comes along. You don't realise by turning up to a networking event, like I turned up to Nick Cruz's event one night, I've won $1,000 travel voucher.
oh, really?
Yes. And at the networking group with our authors, there were 2 prizes that night. And she said they're like big prizes. I said, well, send me the details. I'll find out how much the flights are. I've won the Prosperity Camp 3 days in the US next year worth $7,500.
Well, I'm going to say you're tinny. You just rattle
You
the
just
tin
got to
when it
say,
comes
I'll
to.
do it. I'm going to win this. And like when we have an awards night, being in the finals, you're champions. Whether you win the category or not, you're in the finals. 4,500 people are in the finals. You're one of the 1,000 there. You've done it.
Yeah. What could you say to people who think, oh, I don't want to apply for an award, or how do you do that? How do you get nominated for awards? Do you think you're worthy enough? What is it that you have to think and feel to be able to stand up and be proud of what you do?
Well, we all have a skill. When I first went to BX Networking, I just saw an ad on Facebook to attend a local one. So I just turned up in my business attire, and Matt was there who runs it. And he said, oh, hello. How did you find out? I said, I saw it on Facebook. So I turned up, and he said, well, we have an awards thing coming up soon. Put in an application. I said, really? He said, I've just turned up. He said, no, put an application in. So I put an application in and shared what I do with ACN. I made the finals and I made Business of the Year 2 years in a row with BX Business Networking.
Oh dear, oh, you are so funny. I don't mean that terribly. I mean it in a loving way. It's interesting to see you stepping out of. Is it out of your comfort zone, or are you in your comfort zone when you're doing these things?
Initially it was because I didn't even know about awards when I first went into the group. He said, just go for it. I said, why not? Go for it. So you just put an application in and you'll get invited to different awards groups to go in. And this is my 5th final I'm doing so far this year on Saturday, and I still have about 3 more finals to go to the awards nights.
So do you wear different things every time you go, or do you wear the same thing?
I wear the same black evening dress, but I find different tops to go, different earrings, and have my hair done. And I have Mum's handbag because when Mum passed away, I have her special handbag. So I'll take a special handbag with me.
It's your good luck handbag.
It is, yeah.
It's interesting, isn't it? How many awards have you been in so far?
At least 10.
At least 10.
10.
How many have you actually won out of that at least 10?
2. I won Business of the Year 2 years in a row.
And you've been a finalist in the others?
Yes.
Wow. So everyone you've been a finalist in, regardless of whether you've won it or not?
Yes.
Wow. That's pretty cool, isn't it?
You just put yourself out there and say, look, I'll enter this award. And we all have skills in our own business. Just share your skills, and you get a range of questions to answer for the judges, and the judges decide then who makes the finals. Except for the local awards, it's done on a voting system. So you say, can you vote for me for my business? and that's the local business awards. If enough people vote for you, you make the finals in that category.
Okay. I've never even thought about entering any awards ever.
Give it a go.
All right. So what can you say? What do you see yourself doing in the next 5 years, Jacalyn?
I'd like to publish my own book as well as collaboration books. So I'll work on that one.
Okay. Do you have a title or a topic that you want to write about?
I think basically living life to the full. Yeah. Live your best life.
That's a good title, Live Your Best Life.
That's a chapter in one of my books. And I thought, well, everyone wants to live their best life, and having challenges and then learning how to get through that challenge. And like one of the books I share with starting your day with gratitude, do some meditation, wake up an hour early every day, spend that hour with gratitude, meditation, and exercise, and make your bed is the most important thing. How you start your day is how you end your day. And that came from one of the famous generals, make your bed.
Yes. And you know what? I make my bed. Half my bed's made before I even put my feet on the floor. People look at me as if to be, oh, you weird? But my bed's made before I walk out of my bedroom, regardless of what time I get up. Yeah, absolutely. Got to have your bed made. Don't care if nothing else is done. Your bed's got to be made. I can't understand these people that get up, get out of their bed, go away and do this, do that and everything else, and your bed's not made all day. Yeah.
There's no excuse.
No, it takes you 2 minutes, if that.
And the young ones don't make their bed. I said to my niece, Hayley, do you make your bed? Oh, no, I don't make it. I said, why not? I said, would you go to your dance classes not dressed properly? And she had to think about that one.
It's interesting, isn't it, how we as older folk think, and the younger ones, they're kind of blasé about it.
Yeah, because when we were young, Mum said, make your bed before you go to school. So we all made our beds before we went to school.
Yeah. It's a good habit to get into. And don't put your clothes on the floor.
When you look at the young ones' rooms, they thought, where's your walking space? There's clothes on the floor, toys on the wall, floor, you name it. It's everywhere. Tidy your room.
What for? I'm only going to make a mess again, so why would I tidy it up? Oh dear, it's quite funny when you think about it and have a conversation about it. So what would you say to someone who's thinking about starting a business, or thinking about writing a book, or thinking about, and I'm saying thinking about putting themselves out into the big wide world? What is something that you could say to them?
Well, join a Facebook group that's something you're interested in, and listen to what they're doing and learn from them as well. Because you learn from your mentors, because they've done things that made mistakes and learnt more. Learn from your mentors. I have multiple mentors. And if you follow what they've done and what they're doing now, and join that Facebook group, like with the authors group, I've learned a lot just by joining an authors group from the other authors, and they publish the books as well, which takes a load off yourself, because if you self-publish, it's costly. But join, even though you pay to go in the collaboration book, once you've done your chapter, the rest is done for you.
How many more books do you reckon you'll collaborate with? And how many books have you got in you to write yourself besides the first one? I'd say you have several.
It's never ending when you want to collaborate with books. There's always a topic you can think of and share an experience in life. It helps someone else in life. That's what it's all about.
And sharing your story, there's always someone out there who's had a similar experience, or the same experience, not exactly the same, but they can relate to it and say, well, I'm not alone. I know there's someone out there that is feeling the way I'm feeling, or thinking the way I'm thinking, or experiencing or experienced what I've experienced.
And a lot of people aren't game enough to move on and give it a go. Like, you see people that are paraplegic in wheelchairs. A lot of people give up. I'm stuck in this wheelchair forever. how many people do you see in wheelchairs that are in Olympic Games?
How many? There's a fellow, and I'm just thinking he's got no legs, but he climbs mountains, uses his arms and climbs mountains.
Yeah.
I say the people that have the disability don't see them as disabled.
No.
We're the ones that see the disability, and
Yes.
we're the ones that have the disability, because they don't see themselves as that. They see themselves as just normal, average day, every person. They might be able to do everything that we do in the way we do it, but they find a way. There's a determination and a courage and a strength that they use to make things happen in their life.
Certainly. And like that thalidomide, a lot of babies are born without limbs. And you see these people with no legs, some even don't have arms, but they can still, one fella, I can't think of his name, but he travels the world speaking about his problem, sharing how he does it. It doesn't matter what disabled you are, you can always find something to do and share your story, because a lot of people are struggling. What can I do now? I've done this, or I've lost a limb, or whatever. Sharing your story of how you've achieved success by just persevering and saying, I can do this.
Yeah. Yeah. As we said earlier, there's no such thing as can't, is there?
That's right.
All right. So what else inspires you in life? Who are 2 or 3 people that have inspired you in the last few years?
Zig Ziglar, because I have Zig Ziglar in the car with me and I'll listen as I drive. So you're learning like a university learning while you're traveling. Instead of putting music on, listen to Zig Ziglar.
Mm-hmm.
And like Mary Morrissey, Bob Proctor, Brian Tracy and Grant Cardone, Tony Robbins, everyone has mentors and you're always learning from different people. Simon Sinek, there's always good quotes you learn from them, just inspiring quotes. And Louise Hay, I have a little calendar of her quotes I use every day. I take a photo and share it on Facebook. And often that's enough to inspire someone. Wow, I can relate to that. Or that's really good. I can learn from that little quote.
Yeah, and you can. When you use the right words in the right context, they can be very strong and very influential, can't they?
Yes.
And a few words can say so much.
That's right.
They can touch the heart, the emotions, and give people a great day just by reading a few, and I'm going to say simple words, because they usually are simple words.
Yes.
They're not big words, they're simple words that give people hope.
That's right. And often people are struggling and they see a nice quote thinking, oh, well, that's made my day. They're a bit of a downer with family problems or been ill, and just seeing something simple like an inspirational quote, I think, oh, I feel better for reading that.
Yeah, I love reading quotes. I make
Yes.
my own up a lot of the time. Make my own quotes because I like to. And I put a quote up every day on my social media, a quote every day. And sometimes I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what's inspiring me? What sort of words do I want to put together to make a quote today? And yeah, and you sit there and think, and then all of a sudden these words, it might be 2 or 3 words, or it might be 5 or 6 words, and you write them down.
Yes.
Our words have so many different meanings. And what we say, if I said something to you and you were feeling a little bit not so happy or good, and I said something, you could interpret that in a totally different way to what I meant.
That's right. Often how emphasis you put on different words makes a difference.
It does. So our language is a really important, to be aware of our language and being authentic in who we are and what we do and what we say is there's some of the things that are on my radar all the time.
And even with mum and dad and my aunt and uncle, they taught me a lot over the years, and like mentors and different things. And mum was always having strokes of one sort or another over the years, and the last stroke took her out, but she always said, I can do this. I can get through this. And she taught us to be strong no matter what happens. Just give it a go, you know. But sometimes, you know, the last one she had, she knew she was in big trouble because she couldn't swallow. She had lost the use of her leg initially, but it came back. But you know, being tube fed, it wasn't on. Mum loved her food and loved her chocolate. And I just said, imagine that's chocolate coming through your little line, like, and then she'd laugh. But it was a hard time, and Mum and Dad were married 67 years, so it was a big struggle for Dad when we lost Mum.
67 years, that's, wow.
Yeah.
Wow, that's a lifetime.
It is, yeah.
Wow, that's pretty amazing. Tell me what you think your superpowers are, and then I'll tell you what I think they are.
I think just saying yes to opportunities that come along because you don't know where it takes you. Like now I'm an author. I never thought I'd, when you're young, you think, oh, I'll write a book sometime. Till you're asked, would you like to co-author? You don't think about it. Now it's led me to multiple books and more in the pipeline, and just learning more business skills and having more opportunities to earn additional income on the side.
I think, Jacalyn, your superpowers are that you have the skills and the ability to take on board what you've done and take it to the next thing, then take on board what you've done and take it to the next thing, and keep growing and having a go and never being afraid to step out of your comfort zone and do something that you've never done before. So I'd say you're a risk taker. I'd say you were an inspirer. I'd say you were someone who challenges yourself and never gives up. And I'd say that you're kind and thoughtful.
Thank you. Like with Tony Robbins, I did the fire walk, and that's a big challenge. And Peter Sage, I'm doing a course with him in coaching, and he said, doing the fire walk, even though you've done the fire walk, it's basically a metaphor. You're faced a challenge, you've done it, which means if you can do that, you can do anything. You're unstoppable. If you can fire walk, you can do anything.
I think we'll end it on that note. Thank you, Jacalyn, for your time. It's been wonderful having this conversation with you.
I've loved every minute of it.
Thank you. I'm Faye Waterman, the Conversation Curator. I'll be back again soon. Bye for now.